Constructive Criticism is sponsored by Oasis Games. MTGOasis.com is the place to get cards for your next Magic event. Try them out with code CCMTG for 15% off of your first order, and use the code WouldThatBeGood for 4% off of every order. Want to support the show directly? Head on over to patreon.com/CCMTG to check out some awesome benefits and future goals for the show. Thanks for listening, and here's this week's episode of Constructed Criticism. Hello everyone, and welcome to a video on the Constructed Criticism YouTube channel. I'm Spencer. I am once again joined by Lucas. Is it Faley? I always say Faley.
Faley, yes.
All right. I'm glad I got it right. How's it going, Lucas?
I'm good. How are you, Spencer?
I'm good. We're recording Sunday morning during daylight savings time, so we're both real tired.
Groggy.
Yeah, and you play Magic at night, right? So this is just an insane time for you.
Yeah, it's not uncommon for me to be playing until the wee hours of the morning.
Well, this is actually why we're here, is because of your habit of doing that, you're actually qualified for the Mythic Invitational, and we wanted to talk to you about that experience of being one of those top 8 players that that earned that right that, so many people tried for. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Before we get there, don't forget to check us out on patreon.com/ccmg, become a patron of Constructive Criticism. It means the world, and don't forget to check out the rest of the network over at constructivecriticism.com. But, Lucas, first of all, I kind of want to preface this with was it last month or the month before? It was the month before, technically, but the last season, we had you on because you had climbed to number 1 in the rankings, and I think you finished in the top 8 that month as well, right?
So, no, I did not end up finishing in the top 8. I had computer issues and didn't play for, the last 3 days.
Got it.
But I was, 5 when I stopped playing, and then just decayed a bunch.
Let's talk about this. So, the Mythic Invitational is $1 million Magic tournament that they invited some streamers to. They invited the MTL to, and then they had 8 open spots for the people that finished the top 8 at the end of February on Arena Constructed Ladder. So, kind of a few different thoughts. My first question is, did you switch from best of 1 to best of 3? How did you qualify? How did you do it?
Yes, I did switch from best of 1 to best of 3. A large portion of that was just that I realized fairly soon in. I think that I may have even hit Mythic, I was already Mythic. No, I hit Mythic again on best of 1. And then I had gotten to a point where it felt like, with the deck that I was playing, I know we'll get into that a bit later, that I just couldn't get the win percentage high enough in best of 1 to really compete with the people who were doing best of 3. I do think that it is better. It's easier, especially given certain meta games, to be able to do better in best of 3.
So last time we talked about how you've been playing for the number 1 ladder spot, and one day this could be for a huge event, right? My question was did it make you nervous just playing for nothing? And it's nerve-wracking, right? The ladder system itself is this thing that you feel. Do you think the matches last month, playing for that number 1 spot or trying to grind for that number 1 spot, helped you prepare for what it would feel like when you're playing for $1 million tournament?
So yes and no. It definitely did in some regards. One of the big things was me just having an understanding of what the texture looks like at the top of the ladder. I know a lot of people, you might hit Mythic and be rank 300 or something. Actually, this season I hit Mythic last night and was rank 300 or something. And when you win or lose, it moves you so far in one direction or the other. And when you're at the top of the ladder, that's just not the case. It's, when you're playing those rank 20 games, if you lose, you're going to be rank 35 or something. And if you win, you're going to be rank, 17. You just don't. And so that was something that I really was already ready for. And I think some of the people who were kind of newer to trying to be in those top ranks, that was really discouraging at times whenever they take a loss. And I had kind of adjusted to that in my head. But on the other side, this season was not at all like preseason one. People were playing that were of no insult to the preseason one people who did well, but the caliber of Magic player was just so much better. I know that on like that final night's grind, I played against multiple MPL players, a lot of the actually a lot of former pros, a lot of current pros. Like the caliber of player in the top 100 that last day was just insane. It was, I'd say, more PT day two than GP day two.
Sure, sure, that's totally fair. So, with that being said, last time we talked about, kind of brought this back to the constructive criticism show a little bit and talked about, that mindset of always improving, always doing what you can to be better than you were the day before. Sometimes it doesn't always work, and on ladder, you're really gonna see that, right? You're gonna see that, like,
Yeah.
when you make a mistake, it's like, oh, that was so bad. I'm so much better than that. But was there a moment, an always improving moment for you in all of this that you'd like to share with the listeners?
Yeah, so if you recall last time, it was like I had kind of like gotten there through introspection. But this time I tried to actually, kind of outsource things a bit. I did one of the things that's just so nice about Arena and really nice about Twitch is just, now that all these MPL players are streaming, you can like play a game, see that, your opponent's name is VBD or something of the like, and then just like after the game, go into the chat, like talk to one of these MPL players, one of the best players in the world, and like actually, potentially get advice for play mistake they think you would have made, and then actually like I know in a like I would do that whenever I saw an MPL player or a known streamer. After my game, I'd go check in with them, but then I would also try to watch their VODs and see the games that I was playing from their perspective. So essentially, I was doing homework for Arena, and it was actually really nice to be able to do. You don't really get to watch your own games much. I know that people who get feature matches have sometimes taken advantage of that, and I feel like there's just a million more feature matches that you can get now that players are streaming.
That's really cool. That's something that was one of just kind of off the subject and something more personal. That was like one of my favorite videos I ever did. I did a video where I had a feature match at SCG Vegas that I lost, and I went over it and talked about like a pretty major misplay that I made in the game that cost me multiple turns later, to cost me to lose that feature match. And Paulo Vitor liked it so much he started doing them on his feature matches at the Pro Tour.
Mhm.
And it's something that I've always wished I had more opportunities to do stuff like that. So the fact that you're doing it just shows that I think it's so worth it to go back and watch your videos, go back and watch anything you had. Magic Online, I don't know if you know this, used to have a feature that it still might, where you could watch your own games, and you could see your opponent's hands while doing it. And that was something that a lot of players took advantage of as well. So I think that anytime that you have an opportunity to self-reflect, it's an opportunity you should execute on, and I think that's really good advice.
Yeah, I think in Magic there's a time where we're playing and we want to like maximize our individual performance at that time, but then there's also like time where we need to be learning about the game, and it's really hard to be doing both at the same time, to be trying to like make the highest percentage play and to also like understand how games play out better both at once. And when you're able to just like, you know, play your game and then rewatch it later, you can think about those questions that maybe you can't, like you just have to focus in the game on for.
Yeah, it's really funny to think about the number of times where we get just completely sucked in and caught up into the moment and just can't see. It's like when horses have those blinders on, right? It's just like
Hmm.
they're there to make you focus on this, but sometimes you need a little peripheral vision to help you see the bigger picture.
Definitely.
So let's talk about it. At the end of the last video, you talked about how you didn't think Mono was good. I was saying how much it had improved. Now I think the deck is not very great, but it is the deck that got you there.
That's
So
correct.
We're both wrong, or we're both right. What happened?
No, well, I was wrong, and now you are wrong, I think is the accurate assessment of things. Um, so, uh, I really think, um, Mono Red is just like a very interesting deck. I think that at the start of the season, what people saw and what you saw and were correct on was that there was just a huge power spike in Mono Red. It's much better now than it was in Guilds of Ravnica. The Ravnica Allegiance cards, Light of the Sage in particular, is fantastic, and makes all your matchups better. And but I think something that happened like throughout the course of the format is, those first couple weeks, the SCG events and stuff, everyone like that had a sideboard was sideboarding with mono red in mind. There were decks like the Wyatt's Esper mid-range deck that or playing Basilica Bellhaunt main deck. That card doesn't exist in standard anymore, thankfully. And just like as the metagame has gone on, I think that it's become much more vulnerable to mono red. I know Alex Magelton top eighted the last, I guess it's an MC now, not a PT. And he wrote a blog post where basically he said the same thing, where it's just like people treat this like a bad deck. I don't think it's a bad deck, and that's
Right.
kind of from my perception is I think a lot of people were just underestimating and almost disrespecting the red deck. I think you do need to be able to beat it because it's one of the inherently like strongest power level decks in the format.
Yeah, I lost to the mono red Splashing Cindervines deck and Legion Colossus twice this week after I wrote these show notes, and I was like, oh man, like this deck is so good.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah, it's certainly one that I think. So were you playing the green splash for what it's worth?
No, I wasn't. And I was actually playing a really kind of insane list to like the fact that I qualified with the list that I had is absurd because I took a list that I had about a month ago, like theory crafted, and didn't like it then, but just like thought recently that mono red would be good, and so tried it out, and I just kept winning with it, so I didn't change anything.
Yeah,
but it's just like a month old list.
One of the things that I think about with best of three specifically was we were in the queues last night, kind of just like playing games together, myself and some others, and it was one of the things we talked about was like there's like no mono red in the best of three ladder, which probably biases people towards not playing hate towards it.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and I think that was kind of my experience. Like I felt like there were a lot of decks that just weren't accounting for mono red in their like in what their expected metagame was. I know it was a little bit after the MC or whatever, and yes, Mythic Championship, and Luis had done well with Arclight Phoenix, and that deck just never beats mono red. And so like there are more of those, and it's just I think that, like the metagame can be really vulnerable to it, and if people aren't playing it, then it puts itself up to be something like that.
What other decks did you try in all of this?
So throughout the season, I played most of everything. I played a decent amount of Sultai. That is a deck that has a reputation of being a good deck and is actually bad. Just gonna throw that out there. I played White Weenie. I played Mono Blue. I played Nexus. Didn't really play a ton of Esper Control. I think I kind of regret that now because I think that was a pretty decent deck. I played some Is It Phoenix once LSV had played that. I played pretty much a lot of the Gauntlet.
Fair. Totally fair. What do you think you learned about Standard from all of this?
Really, I think what I learned the most about this Standard is that it's the play design team has done a good job, and you can win with pretty much anything. Or like, there's so many different strategies that are viable. And then also, I think I learned that the metagame is still important. Uh, that's one of the reasons that I had switched to mono red was because I got sick of losing with the white weenie splash blue because I couldn't beat Sultai. And I think it's kind of weird. Everyone thinks that Sultai beats mono red. Sultai doesn't beat anything except for white weenie. But mono red was just well positioned. And so like position like metagaming is still super important, even though we have the kind of almost modern like standard where you can play all sorts of strategies.
Yeah, I was talking to my co-host John Stern a couple weeks ago, and one of the things he said is he thought this was the best standard format he'd ever played, and I'm starting to agree. I think it's really fun. There's like lots of good decks, including Sultai. There's
Mm.
there's I mean there's just so many there's so many options, and the ways you can build your decks are I mean using Sultai as an example, if you look at something like Canister's list, or look at something like a typical like there's those lists are so like 20 cards different from each other.
Yeah.
It's kind of impressive how this happens. I mean, I lost to mono to red splash white weenie last night. So it's not like that deck's gone away. There's still, and then played against blue splash last night too. So there's just so many ways to build standard decks right now. It's really cool.
Definitely.
Let's get into some questions from our patrons over at patreon.com/ccmtg. If you're a member of the Constructor Critics group, which is for patrons of $12 or more a month, that's about $3 an episode. You can ask questions on videos like this. So the first one is, how many hours did you play daily?
Yeah, so that's something a lot of people have asked me, and I really don't know. I'd say probably a few, but like you know, it's I was playing Arena for most of the season the same way that I like watch TV, that I play another video game. Like I'm doing like multiple things at once and just like have Arena on, like have Netflix on the background. And I'm just like playing because it's a video game and like that's what I do to kill time or like have fun. I'd say probably a couple of hours. Most of it, like really though, like in terms of the grind itself to top eight, I had put myself in a position just like me being a competitive player and wanting to win all the time. I'm not gonna play bad decks or I wasn't playing brews. So I was like, I don't think I had really gone outside like the top 200 mythic in the season. So it was just like I think I was 70 or so at the start of the day um, for that final day, and so decided to make the push then. And that was actually like a full maybe 12 hour experience. I'd gotten back from my draft at around 11 at night.
You played through the
And
night?
then, yes, I played through the night. So it was just, I'd gotten home. I'm like, I'm going to play until I don't think I'm competitive anymore. And I just kept winning, basically. But I like, there were 3 or 4 times throughout the night where I would get to rank like 10 or 11 and lose. And at that point in the ladder, like you just like you have to play like 5 games to get back to where you were.
Sure.
The loss like that. And so it's just like, oh man, I'd be but like,
So were you
you know,
best of one at this point?
no, I was best of 3.
Okay.
Like that entire night, the final night I played mono red the whole time and I played best of 3 mono red.
All right. Wow, man, that's so much magic, and like it's
I
funny
was exhausted.
because I used to do that, right? Like I remember before being a dad, like it would like let's just play Magic all night long, and I don't know how good of Magic I would be playing throughout that time. Do you felt like you were playing good Magic?
I did actually, like I think I just was in the zone. Before I did come by, before I did like start playing that night, I stopped by the grocery store, picked up some Code Red so that I could play my mono red. Was just like caffeinated and had appropriate energy.
This podcast is
Yeah,
brought to you by Mountain Dew, apparently.
yeah.
That's
If they
great.
want to send a sponsorship my way, that'd be great.
Yeah, we'll tweet at them. We'll let them know.
Yeah.
So the next question is, how do you stay engaged for long periods? So this question is interesting because of the way you just answered the last question. So I'd like to. So were you playing for long periods with those Netflix runs?
Um, Occasionally, but honestly, like if you ask how I stayed engaged, I really wasn't. It's at those points in time, it's just like, I'm playing because I want to play Magic, and then if I enjoyed the games, so basically if I was winning, I'd play for a while. And then if I got like a losing streak, it's just like, okay, close the laptop, focus on TV.
Sure. Do you enjoy the process of the ladder grind?
Yeah, I do. For me, the seeing my rank go up is something that I've enjoyed. Like, I don't think I would have hit rank 1 last season, and I don't think I would have been like as accepting of this like absolutely grueling, like completely unreasonable ladder grind this season if it wasn't the case.
Do you think that that's just a personality thing, or are there things that people can do to make it a more enjoyable experience?
I think it's a little bit of both. I know that I've come to enjoy it even more over time. Sometimes less when the pressure really gets on. But uh, I, if you think about how the games are going to play out, and you think about what you can do to get better all the time, hashtag always improving, then you you become more willing to just accept like, okay, like my rank right now isn't what's indicative of like my play skill in the future. And so it's, how can my actual rank, whatever it is, be higher in the future? And if you think about that, then like the ladder grind like just doesn't feel as bad. Like it's I really was like thinking about improving, and if I make improvements, it should have tangible like effects on my rank, and it did, I think.
Yeah, that's really good. You focused on, you weren't outcome focused on your next match. You were outcome focused on the long term, which is a way to
Hmm.
keep it healthy rather than a way to to be like I have to win my next match or else I'm bad at Magic is just like a bad way to think about stuff.
I mean, there were a couple of outcome focused matches. I think playing at rank 9 with like 20 minutes left uh, before the season ended. I may have been a little outcome focused, but I won, so it's okay, right?
How many times did you have to switch or modify decks when grinding?
Um, cool. Throughout the month, I'd say I switched decks, 20 or so times. And like I modified decks quite regularly. Like I would play a deck and then change sideboard cards after a couple of matches if I just had run into the same matchup a few times and I just wanted to try something out. I'd say for most of the time, like I was saying before, like my grind wasn't specifically to rank up. It was to get better, to remain competitive. And so at that point, I was kind of almost in like the learning stage, and switching decks and like changing like the exact configuration of the decks was like part of me just trying to adapt and trying to understand things a little bit better.
So this isn't from the listeners. This is from me. But what are you gonna do with the 250,000 when you win it?
Um, I have no idea.
Can you imagine?
Payoff?
I just want to know.
Yeah.
Can you imagine winning $250,000 playing Magic?
Uh, I mean, I visualized it enough. I think that that's really like how I'm gonna win, right? Is because I've just thought about receiving that 250,000 check more than any of the other competitors have. Um, that's how that works. Um, no, actually, it's just like the idea that in less than a month now, I'm going to be playing against a lot of the best Magic players in the world, and if I get dead last, I'm getting like 7.5 grand. That is like hard to fathom, let alone like the other side, like the if I do well in that tournament, like it's more than just $250,000. That's like a life changing
Yeah. So much money to win playing
event. Yeah.
Magic.
And it's just like that puts me like top 30 all
Well,
time on like Magic winnings if I
yeah.
win that tournament.
It's
Like
so crazy to think about, and it's the other thing to think about. Like, I mean, you just talk about like getting dead last is it 7-9 or is it 7-5?
it's 7.5.
So like think of all the players. I mean, I just went and won a 1K and top aided another 1K in a weekend, and that was like a good
Hmm.
weekend playing Magic.
Yeah.
And it's like I made like $300. Like winning. I mean, seven. There was something that John and I kind of talked about offline a bit. Was he's like seventh. I've never won. He's won a Grand Prix. He's never won $7,500 playing an event.
Yeah, it's kind of absurd. Like, and I mean, basically, that's how I thought of it as like in that last night of the grind. That was just like, I think I maybe have like somewhere between 1% and 5% chance of this top eight. And but if I just like multiply that by the EV of the tournament, then it's just like this is a decent job, and it's playing Magic, so I'm gonna do it.
Sure.
And that 1 or 5% paid off. Um, and so the 7,500 I think I've already earned, and so I need to earn another, 242.5 grand.
Well, congratulations, man. I was obviously super stoked to see Duel. I
Yeah,
had a
me
lot.
too.
I had a. I bet you were. I had a lot of fun having you on last month, and I know who I'm rooting for going into this invitational. It's you and Seth all the way from me. So, good luck. Anything that you want to say to the listeners, the viewers before we wrap up?
Um, just keep grinding. This top 1,000 should be much easier. I think a lot of people who maybe were intimidated by the top eight should try to do their best this coming season to do the top 1,000, to do the um,
Playing
to
the Grand Prix.
qualify for the online Mythic Championship. Yeah, you can call it a Mythic Grand Prix to get to the Mythic Championship. I don't know. Um, and I think I should probably thank Nerd Rage Gaming. They're actually they sponsored the Pro Team series that I was in, and then it's so I got to play in an event last week that was like a 5K, and West is just kind of like starved for Magic sometimes, and they're doing like an awesome tournament series, and that's been great. And
Awesome.
so just want to thanks for them for doing that event.
Well, don't forget to, if you're listening on the YouTube channel or watching on YouTube, don't forget that sub and like button, ring the bell next to the subscribe button to get notifications for more stuff like this. If you're on the podcast feed, give me feedback. If you like this content, this additional content on the feed, let me know. But leave a comment. Head over to patreon.com/ccmtg. And we'll see you all next week with another episode of Constructive Criticism and more videos over on the YouTube channel.